Morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Just
morning.
saying, am I correct, Sarah, that the legislature confirmed you Monday?
I don't know. I hope so.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that happened.
Good, good.
I did.
And so I guess you just have to arrange for to do the oath with.
Yeah. I think I'll be getting some paperwork in the mail and then I probably need to go to City Hall or something.
Yeah, you need a
Dedimus Justice.
dedimus.
Yeah.
Well, if we're in the same neighborhood, I'm a Dedimus, so happy to help.
Oh, really? Well, you're not too far from me. I'm in Dixmont. You're in Bucksport, I guess, or somewhere down that way.
That's
Are you
right.
still in Bucksport?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was the same place.
Careful.
Looks like Newell Louie is joining us from San Francisco.
Wow.
I'm busy in the Bay Area.
Well, actually, you're in Sausalito, aren't you?
Good morning. It's just morning
Nothing
here now.
wrong with Sausalito. I used to hang out in Sausalito.
So, okay. Still missing a few. I guess the stream is live for folks that are out there. We're just waiting for a few more commissioners, including our chairperson, to join the Zoom. Well, my cat is trying to join the Zoom here.
Hey, Paul, did you see the video of the cat in the courtroom?
The lawyer cat, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing at that.
That's pretty funny. I am not a cat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob.
They're waiting for a commission.
Bob, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your volume's a little low.
Ah. Funny, I just turned yours down. Is this any better?
Say that again.
I guess not. Is this any better?
No, I can hear you. Everybody hear Bob okay?
Yep.
Okay.
What?
All right, let me see if I can get this cat off my lap here. Okay. We're missing Paul. And let's see. We don't have John Cashwell. I don't know if John might not have been available on this slot. And I don't see Zeke yet. And we don't have, well, obviously we don't have Paul Downing yet. But we do have a quorum of the commission at this point. What is your wish? We don't, without Paul, do you want to start or?
Can somebody send Paul an email and see if he's just
Oh,
to wait or?
Yeah, he'll let us know. He's really good about that stuff.
Okay, all
I
right.
talked to him. I mean, I talked to him last night. I know that he's working at Pleasant Point and he had to drop out of one thing that he was doing at 11 to join us. And so maybe he's, delayed a little bit. But yeah, I fully expect him to be jumping in here.
Yeah, doesn't he usually have a hard time with the signal out there?
Well, I think he has a harder time when he's at his place at Peter Dana Point, but yeah, he sometimes has problems from Pleasant Point as well. I know he's at Pleasant Point this morning. Is it the sense of all of you that we just wait a minute here for Paul to show up?
Well, it seems like maybe, Paul, the first part of the agenda particularly is all stuff we could get going through.
Well, I kind of agree with that too, if that's okay with all of you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Normally we just start with introductions anyway, so maybe we could quickly go through the introductions. I don't know if everybody sees it the same way I do, but in my upper left is John Banks. So John, could you start the intros?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well and staying safe. I'm John Banks. I am one of the Penobscot Nation Commissioners on MITSC. Thank you.
And the next person I see in a square is Richard.
Good morning. I'm Richard Rosen, State Commissioner. I live in Bucksport.
And Kevin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Hancock. I'm a state commissioner and I live in Casco, Maine. Not Casco Bay, out by the lakes, not by the ocean.
Thank you. Sarah?
Good morning. I'm Sarah Medina from Dixmont, and I'm probably 80% on the way to being a state commissioner.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Sarah was recently nominated by Governor Mills, and as of Monday was confirmed by the legislature. So, Bob?
Oh, I'm Bob Checkaway. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, and I am a state appointed commissioner broadcasting to you from Freeport.
Bert?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bert Fulches. I'm the other Penobscot Nation Commissioner to MITSC, and I'm actually in Baltimore at the moment. As you can see, it's nice and sunny. We got rid of all the snow finally.
Thanks, Bert. Matt?
Good morning. My name is Matt Dana. I'm the Passamaquoddy Indian Township Commissioner. I'm here at Indian Township. Was able to stay grounded yesterday during that wind, but we're still here.
Thanks, Matt. Sandy?
Good morning, everyone. Sandy Yarmul, Passamaquoddy from Zibayag Commissioner, and I am here at my house in Robbinston.
And I think we have Sam on the phone, or Sam?
Sam St. John, the Holton Band of Mouseseed Indians.
Thanks, Sam. And then right now we have one guest in the Zoom. That's Newell Louie. You want to introduce yourself, Newell?
Yeah, good morning. Well, Spazwell, Newell Louie Delivers, Pestamukadnil, Naguji Auzibai, Madakmiguk, Naganagutkuk. Good morning, everyone. I'm Newell Louie, Passamaquoddy, and my family is from Pleasant Point, Indian Township, and Maliseet, New Brunswick.
Thank you. So if it's okay with all of you, I think we'll go ahead and take a look at the agenda. I can put it up on the screen if you don't all have it handy. Hope you're all seeing that. Folks, do you have the agenda up on your screens?
Yes.
Yes.
So as you can see,
Yes.
it looks like a short agenda, but there are some items in it that, probably will, consume some time. So any suggestion? I don't have any suggestion about altering the agenda, except to make the note that apparently the commission will have a executive session at the end And in order to avoid interrupting the public stream and then, when folks would have to get off for an executive session, we would do that at the end so that the only business after that presumably would be adjournment, if that's okay with everybody. That's why it's scheduled at the end. So any comment on the agenda, or should we just go ahead with that?
Well, just for your planning, Paul, I don't know about others, but I do have a pretty hard stop right at 1.
Yeah, I think today probably more than one of us does. So I think we are going to have to really get done at 1. So,
You too, Paul.
Are we good then to go on the agenda?
Yep.
The
Yes,
next item.
Yes.
The next item is, review and approval of the minutes, which I sent around to everyone. I can also try to share those. Not very good at this, I'm afraid, but I've got to get my full screen up here. Okay. Okay. You all see the minutes now? I don't know if you've had it. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, but there's just a glitch in the heading of the minutes somehow. I didn't see that before, but I would need to center that. Just give you a chance. And do you need me to scroll it, or do you folks have your
You sent it to us in advance, right, Paul? I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I'll second that with the note that the heading comes out straight on what I printed.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed to the adoption of the minutes? Okay. Excuse me. Back. Just looking to see if anyone new has joined the meeting. I see that Jamie is coming in. So the next agenda item is the financial report, which I generally present as part of the managing director report. And I'm going to primarily rely on the printed report that I sent you all. Oh, I see Paul is coming in. So, Paul, are you in with us now?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, my broadband is very low, and it's taking me 16 minutes to get in here, so I'll try to stay, but I'm not going to guarantee it.
Okay. We did do the introductions, and we were up
Awesome.
to managing director report. But for the public stream, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Paul Downing. I'm the chairperson for the MITSC, and I apologize for my being late, but we're having severe computer and network issues here at the Pleasant Point Tribal Government. So I do apologize, but I am here. And when it's this slow, Paul, I kind of lean on you to run it, because I don't even know what I sound like from your end.
Okay. Well, we're in the managing director report at this point, and I'll go ahead. As I was saying, I would rely primarily on the written report that I sent to everyone. I guess I would just touch on a couple of things. I usually tell you what the current balances are, what in the bank, and I just checked on that, and so our total of checking and savings as of now is 156,165, And just a brief update on the audit. It's all but done. Um, they had sent us a couple of things they had written in it about impact of COVID, which I guess is part of the protocol this year, and we responded to that. And so now we're at the stage where it really will be finalized, and by the next time we have a meeting, we'll have, you know, both electronic and printed copies of the audit. It's, you know, the second straight clean audit that the commission has had, and I think we owe thanks to Pat Maller for that. I don't take any other credit for it. I think it's really Pat's role at MITSC that has allowed us to have those two clean audits. Other than that, I would rely on my written report and on the financial reports that I sent around, unless there are any questions that any commissioners have for me. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up from Richard, and we don't normally do a motion on my report. So if there are any comments or questions on the report, we'll just keep moving. That which would bring us, Paul, to the old business item. The first item on the agenda there is to honor our former chairperson, Jamie Bissonnette-Louis.
I see her down there at the end with Newell.
And I see, Jamie, Jamie's on the screen, and her daughter, I saw her daughter Emily there for a second. And Erica. So her family members, and Newell's on, so Jamie's family members are on. And I want to start this part of the meeting by just making some personal comments about Jamie's service to MITSC. As I think probably all of you know, she was the longest serving chairperson that MITSC ever had. She served from 10 years, from July of 2010 through July of 2020. And as a lot of you also know, she led MITSC through several really big institutional challenges during her years as chairperson. And she volunteered enormous amounts of time without compensation during her service. She often functioned effectively as a part-time staff member, donating her time, especially when MITSC was challenged with inadequate resources. She really went way beyond what should be expected of a MITSC chairperson, but she did it willingly. But the commission owes her a great debt for that. I think it is no exaggeration to say that there were times when Jamie held MITSC together, when it might have actually gone out of existence. If Jamie had not had that commitment to the commission, especially during the difficult years that occurred during the LePage administration, when there was just a major breakdown of the relationship between the state and the tribes, and MITSC really was caught sort of as, in a lot of ways, as collateral damage in that. I wanted to mention that Jamie oversaw the establishment of the first real office that MITSC had, and we still have. Prior to that, the executive directors, had worked basically out of home offices. But under Jamie's leadership, MITSC set up an office that we have now in Truscott. And also largely because of Jamie, we've been able to develop a very strong collaboration with the Cobscook Institute, which is across the street from our location in Truscott. And that connection with Cobscook has not only provided an excellent place for us to have meetings, but it's also indirectly provided us with, Pat Maller, who's been helping us with our financial work, and Dylan Pardue, who helps us with our IT work. So it really has been a great collaboration that we've had with them, largely because of Jamie. And I just want to mention a couple of, from my point of view, what I think are some of the biggest contributions out of many that Jamie made to the commission. And the first is her focus on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and working hard to make that part of the principles of the UNDRIP, part of the culture of MITSC, and along with some others, including John Banks and John Diefenbacher-Kroll, really emphasizing it, in communications with the legislature and with other officials. It really became a theme of MITSC during Jamie's time. And it's often said and pointed out, that the UN Declaration and the main resolution that adopted it or endorsed it are only aspirational, but that's important. And I think it's important to note that, the settlement itself, in a lot of ways, was aspirational. The understanding at the time of the settlement was that it was going to create new relationships that would evolve and be flexible. So in that sense, there was a major aspirational aspect to the settlement itself. And I think that understanding the principles of UNDRIP is important as we address questions about modifying, and updating the settlement. The other specific thing I wanted to mention that Jamie did, I think had a big impact on was highlighting the impact of Section 1735B of the federal statute. She illustrated how the broad interpretation of that statute had hurt both the tribes and the state. She did a lot of work to try to develop a better test for the application of 1735B, so that statutes that didn't need to be excluded from Maine could be applicable in Maine, instead of sort of in a blanket way excluding new federal statutes from applying in Maine. And to do that, Jamie had to challenge, the Attorney General's office and Senator Collins, and basically she spoke truth to power on the impact that 1735B was having on the tribes and the state of Maine. That work became part of the Suffolk report that has now played a real role with the task force, and even now with the legislature. It was mentioned just yesterday in the meeting between the tribal leaders and the Judiciary Committee. So it's bearing fruit. It bore fruit last year with the adoption of the VAWA bill that really relates to the effect that 1735B has had on the tribes and the state. And so as the discussions go on this year, it's as was true last year, it's clear that a lot of attention is being paid to the impact that 1735B has had. And Jamie played a critical role in really bringing that to the forefront. And I think she deserves a lot of credit for that. So those are my personal comments, and before turning it to the commissioners for their comments, I was asked by Newell if he could jump in and say a few words at this point. So, Newell, you're muted.
There we go. Well, thank you, Paul. And I just want to tell the MITSC commissioners and the chair and the executive director, that I'm really happy to be here and honored to be here sitting next to Jamie. And I thought I could do this, so I'll get emotional, but I already am. So anyway, I'm going to continue as the best I can. Since 2009, well, in 2009, I thought I knew MITSC, and I knew about it. I participated in some of the activities or the meetings, and I knew some of the commissioners as well. But from 2010 through 2020, I learned more about MITSC than I ever wanted to know, and through the overflow. And I've watched Jamie take this organization and grow it into the entity it is today. I gotta tell you that I don't know of anyone, and I don't know the past chairs that well, but I know her chairpersonship. She worked very hard to keep everybody in consensus mode rather than, the traditional or the rules of Robert's orders. And thinking about how that, what I saw, I guess, is that I'm just happy that, not happy she's done, but I'm happy that she brought MITSC to where it is now. And, a couple of years ago, she retired. But as my neighbor says, yeah, right. She continues to work hard. And I sat on the tribal council for Passamaquoddy Pleasant Point for 8 years during that time as well. So I know a lot of the leaders in all of the Native communities, and I've been to the State House a lot of times, more times than I wanted to be there. And from the tribal leaders themselves, the ones that I know personally, and the ones that I know in the ones that I know, I don't know how to put it in a business sense, but we're not as close, but I do know them, and they have all made incredible comments to me. And Jamie and I know some of them, together, and they're very good friends of ours. And they not only said those comments to me about Jamie's work and her work ethic, but they said it to her as well. The Chief Peter Paul is a relative of mine. Vice Chief Newell is a very dear friend of mine. Chief Dana is a very dear friend of mine, and Chief Sabatis also is a dear friend of ours as well. And well, they're all Jamie's friends as well too. And Kirk Francis I've known for a long time as well. And what you hear back from people when when Jamie's not in the room, that's the kind of measure that I take, in terms of like, they are just incredibly honored, I think, to have her there and to see her work ethic, and to know that she's fighting for the best possible relationship that we can have with the state of Maine and with federal leaders as well. And like I said, I'm honored to be here, and I'm very happy for Jamie. Maliwan.
Thank you, Newell. At this point, I would think we open it for the commissioners to make any comments they want regarding this honoring of Jamie. Feel free to jump in. It's like Bob.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I hadn't planned on making any remarks, but I feel obliged to. And Jamie, you have been, if I can call you this, my native guide through both MITSC and its archives and our native communities here. I don't know how many of you actually read that brief we filed last September, but that alone had many hours of work into it, most of which was Jamie's effort to synthesize the 40 years of history that the commission has, to which I am largely blind. I think I mentioned when we were toasting or roasting John Diefenbacher that the organization has an archive that stretches 40 years, and it's somewhere in the University of Maine. We don't even know where it is. But Jamie had committed almost all of it to memory, only occasionally having to resort to the actual records. Fortunately, she knew where they were when we needed them. But that whole first section of the brief, which I call "The World According to MITSC," is Jamie's memory, Jamie's writing. We couldn't have done it without you. And Jamie, it hasn't even been your role primarily to act as guide to the state commissioners, but in addition to the few formal concepts we've addressed around the table back when we used to do that, you have always been available to explain to me the some of them fascinating, interesting, exciting things about the Native communities that would otherwise have been totally lost on me, and as to which I would be too embarrassed to ask any of the other natives. Jamie, you can't be replaced, but boy, we sure appreciate your help.
Other commissioners, weigh in?
Oh, I'd like to.
Sam?
Hello, Jamie. I just wanted to thank you for all your encouragement and everything you did. When I was on this commission, being only 25 years old, I still have a gut reaction to defer to the wisdom of the elders. But you really made me feel like my opinion was warranted and as valid as anybody else's. And I just want to thank you for that, whether it's on a commission level or state level, or even just as a regular Native person.
Thanks, Sam. Kevin?
Hello, Jamie. So Jamie and I only overlapped on the MITSC board for a short time, but I'd just like to say there was something I really came to respect and admire about Jamie that I think humanity needs a much bigger dose of, and Jamie mentors in a world where increasingly people resort to yelling and raising their voice and becoming demonstrative. Jamie offers just a really beautiful approach to leading. I never once in that short time saw Jamie raise her voice. And what I love about her approach is how powerful a soft voice can be and how clearly a soft voice can be heard. And I think what you bring there, Jamie, was a blessing to MITSC, but is really a blessing to humanity. So I just admire you for that, and keep going, keep doing you. Thank you.
Kevin. Other commissioners want to offer a comment?
Yes, sure, I'd be happy to. It's nice to see you, Jamie, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you did while you were the chair. You kept this organization going and kept it together during a tough period where we didn't have a full commission, yet you kept it going. And when you took over from the previous chair, Paul Bazalka, you just jumped right in immediately with both feet. And, I really can't thank you enough for being so diligent, so committed, and so passionate about this work. And you will always be remembered. Thank you very much, Jamie, for what you did with this commission and for the improvements that you produced in terms of tribal state relations. And the work you did getting Suffolk University engaged was just fantastic. That's some work that will go on forever in terms of drilling down into some of the difficult issues that we deal with as the Tribal State Commission here. So thank you and best wishes in whatever journey you pursue from here. Thank you.
Bert?
First, before I go into speaking about Jamie, Chiwa Leland, Newell, and all of your family for sharing this beautiful spirit with us, allowing her to do the work that she's done. Not just the political work, but she too, I know, she always strived to maintain the spiritual aspect of who we are as Native people and the spiritual aspect of people coming together and working on issues that affect a large amount of people, not just here, not just in the state of Maine, not just the tribes, but the tribes and the non-native people in the state of Maine, as well as so many other places in the country and around the world, for that matter, from what I feel and what I've seen. So thank you for sharing her with us, allowing her to do the work that she's done. Jamie, one of the hardest things, I think, the hardest thing that I've had to deal with sitting on this commission is the day that you left. I remember the first day that I came in and took part. I mean, we talked to each other on the phone before my very first meeting. And I remember that too. But I remember the very first time sitting on this commission, and how welcoming you were. And you seemed so excited about me being on the commission. But, I've always been so excited, anytime that we've had to do anything, I was so excited. I couldn't help but call you and just kind of get my mind wrapped around whatever it was we were working on. And to tell you the truth, there were times when we had some discussion on topics that were very easy for me to I guess, for lack of words at the moment, get a little militant. And just a glance over to you always seemed to calm that and allow me to step back and remember who I am and who we represent. And I was able to start, put things in a little better perspective in a way that I can speak a little more clearly and without getting so I don't know the word, kind of losing some of the words here, but I've watched, I've seen, and I felt all of the things that you brought to this commission, brought to the tribes, brought to the relationship, with the tribe and the state and the federal government and the world, because we also dealt with the United Nations. So as I said, the hardest thing for me to deal with was the day that you left the commission. And I know, that I called you because I miss you so much. And to me, I've got my fellow commissioners. I've got John, I've got Matt, I've got, other people here that have been around, from the time that I came on. And, that helps. But, you are missed. And so, that's why I will call when I get the chance. And I'm going to tell you, I can't think of any moment that we shared on the commission that you had my back, and I also tried to have yours. But that's because we had a lot of work to do, and you steered it in a way, and we're able to put things in a way and get the right people to come in and speak. How you were able to do that, well, I guess that's just a gift that you have. And I know that even though you're not sitting on this commission anymore as chair, you're still out there working. Like Lil said, yeah, right. You're retired, yeah, right. And I see that, because, and I miss you all. And with this pandemic, it makes it even harder because I want to come out and visit. I want to come, be around so many people. And you and your family, you and Newell, are always in my heart. So thank you. Chi Wuliwan for, right in here, this one. Chi Wuliwan, Kamachikazamo.
Thank you, Bert. So I want to note Lisa Suckerbasin is in the Zoom. I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier. And we're still open to anyone else who wants to speak up. And I don't want to exclude anyone who's on the Zoom, including Jamie's grandchildren, if they've got any contributions to make.
Paul, if I could, I'd like to say something very briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jamie, when I came on to the commission, your face I remember, and your kindness I remembered even more. And thank you. Thank you for the gift of patience, for understanding, for being a mentor without me having to ask, for making me feel like I was as important as the non-tribal commissioners. That's something that I struggle with, and you know that, and Noel, you know that as well. And I echo what Sam said. Your welcoming spirit made me feel like I could do this. I thank you for all that I learned from you. A couple of things that I think the most important. First being maintaining composure. When we were in Augusta and the times that I wanted to just scream from the rafters. And you settled me and reminded me of the importance of maintaining composure. And I hope that someday I will be smart enough and wise enough as an elder to have what you have given to me and what you share with all of us. And I thank you for being a quiet and gentle leader.
Thank you, Sandy. Anyone else? Don't want to cut anyone off.
I'd like to say something. I know that it's a weird time. We can't really all be together, but a silver lining for me is that I get to be present and hear all these wonderful things about my mom. And I already knew all of them. She's always been so intelligent and gentle and kind and very intellectual. And it's something that is really an inspiration for me and helps me to live my life in a certain way. And so I just want to thank my mom for being such a good role model and thank all of you for all the kind things that you've said about her, which I absolutely agree with. And Wes was getting antsy, but he's very proud of you too.
Thanks, Emily.
Um,
Erica?
yeah, I'd like to say something too, as long as the little one will not start squawking, but he might say hi too. I have to say, I second what Emily said. You know, growing up, having Jamie as a mom has been an incredible strength and inspiration. And it's amazing to be able to learn from her and watch her become an amazing grandmother, and getting to watch her teach, as everybody's been saying, patience and understanding and caring and all of that, and watching her instill that in her grandchildren is pretty incredible. So, you know, I thank all of you for all of the amazing things you've said about my mom. And like Emily said, we knew them already. She's been she's part of everything I do in life, or as I do actions and do things. I sit in my head and sometimes I say, you know, how would my mom handle this? How would she react? Because she does have this piece about interacting with people. And she really is an incredible woman and an incredible mother and an incredible grandmother. And so thank you. I wish we could all be together, and I wish we could, but at least we can be here to as in our own living rooms at least, but at least we can be together in this way and be able to honor her. So thank you. And Gionig says he loves you as well, but he's eating puffs, and that's important.
Chairperson Downing.
Yes. So I hope I stay on. I've gone on and off on my end with the internet here. It's insane. But so I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction because I'm mad. Okay, I'm really upset with Jamie. I'm not sure why you thought of me and torturing me and putting me in this role of hurting cats. I know you've got it mastered, but you know, come on. Did you not like me over the time that we knew each other while I was on council? So just kidding. I'm absolutely honored, and I think when you thought of transitioning from your current role or your previous role, and then who did you want to fill the shoes that you have filled amazingly for the last 10 years, I'm humbled and I'm honored and I'm a little overwhelmed that you think that highly of me, because man, this is not fun, Jamie. But I am making the best of it. And I really thank you for the opportunity to try to continue what you set in motion. And there are some really big shoes to fill. And I thought my size 12s were adequate to this. But the shoes that you left behind are quite large. And of course, we worked together on and off during the time where I was on council. And I was always amazed with your demeanor. Matt and I had a discussion of how excited I can get as a previous member of council, and you were just that calming force. You were just even keeled and got everybody to dial back in and okay, calm down, deep breaths, and you know, I hope I'm adequate to the task. I'm doing the best I can. It's going to be a long time before I'm anywhere near close to the performance that you left. So, but I thank you, and I'm proud to be part of this honoring of you, Jamie. And thank you for considering me. Not sure why you hate me, but you know, it's all good. I'm still here.
Anyone else?
I just want
I'll
to
go
say,
Oh,
Lisa?
yeah, Lisa Sakabasin, a friend of Jamie. And I just want to say Chiwiliwan. The words that I heard from Bert, the words that I heard from Emily and Erica express the power of your presence. And when you are present, we feel differently. We're calmer. We smile more. And I hope we love more deeply, because that's what you are, Jamie, is love. And that's what I'm hearing today. And I'm not sure why I'm so emotional. Probably because it is so powerful. And it's something we can all do more of. And you reminded me of that every time we were together during your time at MITSC. I had the pleasure of being your breakfast buddy, your lunch buddy, your evening buddy, whatever we needed. And so I just want to say, Chiwiliwan, I want to acknowledge the power of your presence, the love that surrounds you, and it allows us to do it a little bit deeper too. Chiwiliwan.
Matt?
Yep. So I apologize for waiting to get on here to say a few words. Jamie started about 3 months after I came onto the commission. So we've kind of grown up in through this together. You know, there's so many words have been said that I could repeat, but I'll just keep it brief. She's been an amazing person, Jamie. I thank you for your dedication. And I just wanted to say thank you for the friendship that we've developed together, that we've been able to share personal information. We've been able to break bread, share ceremony, and I really appreciate that. And I thank you for your dedication and your service to the commission, to the tribes, and to the state of Maine. Mudge Willie Mudge Gazalmo.
So again, maybe now it's the right time to call on Sandy. Sandy, you there? And Newell?
I don't mean to laugh.
Sandy, we got you? All right, well, Newell, why don't you go ahead? You need to unmute, Newell.
Yeah, it's here. Sandy maybe can explain what's there, or Jamie can open it actually and see what's in
Sandy,
there.
are you with us?
I am. I think it would be more important. All that I can say is I had so much fun being allowed to be the one to pick out the gift. And it is courtesy of my incredibly talented sister, Brenda Moore Mitchell, and Wabanaki Naturals. I told her a little bit about what we wanted, and then I said it's for Jamie, and she said, I'll take it from there. So much kudos to her as well.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
So, Jamie, can you show us your gift?
Oh, it's a lot. Oh, I mean, it's a large gift. There's a lot of components. Thank you, Sandy, and thank you to Brenda. And it's beautifully wrapped. So there's sweetgrass candles and chaga tea, beautiful dream catcher, a incredible basket, maple sugar, hand sanitizer, sweetgrass hand sanitizer, and sage water,
a sage candle, and there's something down here. Oh, and a medicine pouch. And a medicine pouch. So thank you. And yeah, and a basket. I don't know. Can you see? Need it? So
Brenda made
Brenda made the basket. Oh, this is so beautiful, and it's braided sweetgrass, and it's all fresh. It just smells wonderful.
So that's it.
Beautiful.
One.
It smells wonderful. Wow.
Well, thank you, Sandy, for arranging for the gift to be secretly provided to Newell and then to Jamie. And at this point, I would turn to Jamie and ask her to speak to the commission.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep you long. I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything that you've said this morning. I'm not like I don't cry publicly too often, but I did this morning, and I have a tremendous amount of gratitude to the commission for allowing me to serve for the 10 years. It was a hard decision to put my name in as chair, and knowing there'd never been a woman as chair before me was a little bit of a challenge. And I wanted, though, really this morning, I want to thank some people. I particularly want to thank my family. And here you see them as my family, but each one of my family members contributes to making this world a better world for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people. Newell is the division manager for culture, language, and education at Wabanaki Public Health. And Erica, who, I don't know if you're visible now, Erica, with Gioneg. There they are. Is the division manager for healing and recovery at Wabanaki Public Health. And Emily, who had Wesley with her for a little while, is an assistant attorney general in the criminal appellate division for the state of New Mexico. And they shared thinking, challenged my thinking, and formed a nexus of support. And I also find that anybody who's in a position like this needs a tear catcher. And Lisa, you've been my tear catcher many, many times. And Matt, you're another tear catcher, and so has Bert. But Lisa in particular, never was it too late or too early in the morning or too often that she wouldn't take a call and listen and provide support. I want to leave you with some of the thinking. Well, before I do that, I want to thank John and Matt, because of all those, except for family and Lisa, John and Matt walked every step of this way with me. You were there to welcome me onto the commission. You were there to mentor me. And I was so grateful to both of you that you didn't choose to leave at times when you might have. Because to be honest, you were the rudder, that thin rudder on the bottom of a canoe that makes all the difference. And that's who you were along with Bert and Roy Partridge. Roy Partridge was there for quite a while on the state side, and Bob, formally and informally, formally now, but informally for a long time. Bob was there for the commission. When I came onto the commission, I was given 2 bits of advice, and I'm going to share them now. One was from Bonnie Newsom, who was on the hiring committee that chose me as chair. And Bonnie told me to dust off Sun Tzu's Art of War, which I hadn't looked at since I was in my late teens, but because it's not really an art of war, it's about building peace. It's an ancient book about building peace and what are the strategies and how does this fit into economy, into, and then to indigenize that. And so I dusted it off and I've referred to it a number of times. And the other piece of advice came from Madonna Saktoma, who was tribal rep at the time. And she said, Jamie, just always remember, no matter what happens with this Settlement Act, there's a canoe in the middle of the lake. And in that canoe are all Wabanaki people. And it's really only Wabanaki people that feel the effects of this act. So make sure that Wabanaki people are in front of you all the time. And any time that controversy came up, I reminded myself of that I couldn't, that was a responsibility I could not lay down. And I also think it's really interesting, if you read the M Marker article that we submitted to the First Circuit, canoe is the only word in the Passamaquoddy language not connected to earth or water that carries that M marker. And the M marker is something that is inseparable from me as a person, without which I could not live. The M marker incorporates that entity into myself. And for the Wabanaki people, probably 80% of their time was spent in canoes, and the canoes are inseparable. And so that she used that as a fluent speaker, that she used that has special significance. So I wanted to share that with you. I also really want to share a special appreciation collectively for all the state appointees. Because, I think for most people who are not members of the federally recognized tribes in the state of Maine, they can go through their whole lives and never think about the Settlement Act at all. Not really even be aware that it's out there. But those of you who've chosen to sit in these seats consistently, and I know this because as Paul said and as Bob said, I read everything, I study everything, I think about everything. You not only agreed to sit at the table, but you agreed to be mindful and to think hard and try to step outside of yourselves and understand how important it is that the tribes in the state have a foundation for a relationship. And MITSC has consistently been the one tether for that relationship throughout time. And so I'm really grateful for your service. And I just encourage you, I'm leaving all my archives with Paul, and they are in the building. And my archives are almost as extensive as the ones at the university. And whenever you decide as the commission that you want those to join the other archives at the University of Maine, please do so. But I'm leaving them there, read, study. And I made the decision to believe that the language in the preamble of the act was true, that the state of Maine, as well as the tribes, did not see this as a diminishment of tribal sovereignty, that the state saw this as a model, untested model, that they hoped would bring balance to the state and the tribe's relationship. So I chose to believe that that was genuine. I chose to work out of that and to believe that together we could achieve consensus. And that was you made that easy, all of you, because you came at the decisions with what I call equanimity. I never had to vote in 10 years because you worked hard to achieve consensus. And that's a testament to you, not me. That's a testament to you and your commitment to work with each other, even with hard decisions. And I know some of you worked with each other, called each other, checked in with each other in order to make that consensus possible. And I have much gratitude for that. And so I just wanted, I wrote my thesis, a lot of you don't know this, on Camus and social responsibility. And as you all know, when I study something, I read everything. And so the last essay that Camus wrote before he died, the last paragraph of the last essay, I want to leave it with you. And some of the language, I mean, he was an old guy, and this was in the early 60s, I think, that he died. So I'm just going to read it to you. I'm going to change some of the words that refer to men. So Camus was definitely a creature of his era. But I think this is really important, especially now as we're looking at the challenges that lay before you in amending the Settlement Act. And so Camus' last paragraph that he wrote in his life begins with, "One may long, as I do, for a gentler flame, a respite, a pause for musing. But perhaps there is no other peace for the artist than what he finds in the heat of combat. Every wall is a door," Emerson correctly said. "Let us not look for the door and the way out anywhere, but in the wall against which we are living. Instead, let us seek the respite where it is, in the very thick of the battle. For in my opinion, and this is where I shall close, it is there. Great ideas, it has been said, come into the world as gently as doves. Perhaps then, if we listen attentively, we shall hear, amid the roar of empires and nations, a faint flutter of wings, the gentle stirring of life and hope. And some will say, this hope lies in a nation, and others in a person. I believe rather that it is awakened, revived, nourished by millions of solitary individuals whose deeds and works every day negotiate frontiers and the crudest implications of history. As a result, there shines forth fleetingly the ever threatened truth that each and every person, on the foundation of their own sufferings and joys, builds for all." And so I leave you with that and promise I'll meet you at the wall.
Hey, I'd like to say something.
Chief Dana just joined us. And go ahead, Chief. Oops. I think we lost the connection.
Yeah.
Frozen or are you frozen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just want to thank Jamie Bissonnetti Louis for doing all the work that she has been doing. I've had a lot of conversations with her, and I know she's given, you know, a lot of time and effort and sacrifice. And it's just an honor to know her and have her as an ally. And, you know, I just have nothing bad to say about this woman and just want to thank her. And you know, really appreciate not just Jamie but everybody that's served as well. But we hope we're not going away fully. You're going to be in the background. But thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Maggie.
So, Paul Downing, are you still with us?
Yes, the chief had my ear.
Okay, then I would, as we come to the end of this part of the meeting, I guess I would turn it to you to close this out. And so,
So Jamie, there's nothing left unsaid. I'm sure that if we did nothing but talk about how great and wonderful you've been, we'd continue to be here for a good while. I'm super honored that you thought of me, that you championed for me to take over the role that you filled incredibly for the 10 years. And just thank you so much from all the nations, that the MITSC tribal nations, as well as the council or commissioners that you worked with over the last 10 years. And I'll echo what the chief just said. I hope you're not going anywhere because I still need help.
Anytime, Paul. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thanks
I'm
to
going to leave and let you get at your work. Thank you very much for everything.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Willie one, Upchurch, Jamie.
So Paul, I mean, we
Looking
did.
at my agenda.
Yeah, and just in terms of moving on, obviously with a commissioner who served 10 years, and I mean a chairperson who served 10 years and put in all the effort that Jamie had, we did want to do justice to that.
Absolutely.
But now, because the reality is that we have a limited amount of time, so we need to make some decisions about how we want to handle the balance of the agenda. The next item would be the legislative discussion. I sent out an update yesterday. So I guess I would take my lead from you and the commissioners as to how you want to try to approach that.
So I'm looking or trying to pull up my email. I put
Let
it
me
into.
Let me see if I can share it. I think you should be able to see it now. And I can scroll it if you want me to.
Yes. So in looking at this, there's the omnibus bill. And per our discussion and some of the legislative updates that you had sent out, Paul, I do not believe that they've identified what that's going to look like yet. There was one state rep that I read, or the judiciary committee member, that said that they would like to continue it kind of at the, like picking up that conversation moving forward. What was your take on that, Paul?
Yeah, and I sent out a summary yesterday of some of the comments that were made by members of the Judiciary Committee when they met with the tribal leaders yesterday. And I have to say, I think that was one of the better meetings, or maybe the best meeting I've witnessed between the tribal leaders and the Judiciary Committee. around all of this. It was a really good meeting. And so there was a couple of the legislators, made the specific comment that they want to see the process this year pick up right from where it was last year. And there was one other member of the committee who made the point that, or basically made a request that because of he personally, and he knew that some other people had not been able to fully participate after COVID hit, after the legislature adjourned, even though the Judiciary Committee kept, continued to discuss the bill and ultimately voted on in August, that he was asking for them to basically try to go back to where it was when COVID hit, which is a little different, idea. But I thought that the discussion yesterday did focus on sort of the larger conceptual issues more than getting into the weeds. And it is true that there isn't a bill yet that they can actually kick around. But I think the message that emerged from that meeting yesterday was, as we've anticipated, that the bill is going to look a lot like LD 2094, except that it will have gaming is going to be a separate bill, and the VAWA piece already passed, so that that would not be part of the bill. But otherwise, every indication is that it's going to resemble very much the 2094 from last year. One question specific to MITSC that I think is still not clear from anything I've been able to determine is how much of LD 2118 what may be carried over into the new bill. As you all may recall, 2118 was the tribal consultation / dispute resolution bill that was presented, that basically dealt with the last recommendation from the task force, and it didn't get into the big bill. It was a separate bill. It ended up being, the language in that bill ended up being gutted as part of the effort to split the other bill 3 ways. I mean, I've been told that we can expect this, some parts of LD 2118 are likely to reemerge in the new bill. And if it looks anything like 2118 did, there's specific reference to a role for MITSC with respect to both tribal state consultation and working on potential methods of dispute resolution. But at this point, we don't know how much of that is going to be in there. So I guess the way I look at it is, and I think, Richard Rosen hit on this back in December, I guess, when he, suggested maybe there's, sort of preliminary or more conceptual questions that ought to be addressed before getting into the weeds of a particular bill. And we've tried to, that was incorporated in the work plan, and I've sent some things around to kind of follow up on that. And rather than, I guess I would suggest, with the available time we have today, that maybe the commissioners could engage in some discussion about sort of those larger basic concepts about, why there's a need to, significantly change the settlement, not to get into this or that detail about taxation or whatever, but to talk in more general terms about the need to revisit the settlement and make, some substantial changes. And that would be my suggestion that we could do today. But it's up to all of you.
I don't see everybody jumping off saying, okay, let's talk about it.
Have we got a quorum remaining?
Let's see, Matt, Sandy, Richard, Kevin, John.
Um,
Sarah.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Okay.
We still have a quorum.
Yeah, Sam's on there.
Basically, I'm willing to do however, we can go however the commissioners, want to go on this. I sent around the updated list. Obviously, we don't have time today to really go through everything that's on that list that's pending. And I guess I take my direction from all of you as to what you want to do at this point on this agenda item.
Well, what might you say, Paul? Is there one or two big things that you think we ought to be particularly focused on or paying close attention to?
Well, again, I feel that, the discussion at this point ought to be, conceptual and sort of dealing with the large question of, the need to really revisit and revise, the settlement rather than the specifics of whatever bill is going to come out. The task force recommendations that resulted from a long process, basically, with some some specific exceptions, but basically recommended that federal Indian law replace the provisions of the Settlement Act. And there were some specific areas where even the tribes were not suggesting that. For instance, in criminal jurisdiction, the tribes don't want the Federal Major Crimes Act to come back into Maine. They're good with the state of Maine, continuing to have the felony jurisdiction that would otherwise, go to federal and FBI and so forth. A few things like that. The task force recommendations basically recommend that the state and tribes move back to a federal Indian law model. Maine and the tribes departed, very dramatically from that model back in 1980. That's the basic question that undermines almost everything in the task force recommendations is whether that model that was adopted and whether that experiment that was adopted in 1980 has really worked for the benefit of the tribes and for the benefit of the state, or does it need to be substantially re-examined? And I guess we've never really had a discussion in the commission. I think the tribal perspective has been pretty well presented, but as far as a real conversation about those conceptual issues about the settlement, I don't think this commission has really had that discussion. And I guess it's all up to you. But, I think it would be useful to address some of the basic conceptual thoughts about, has this settlement worked, or not, and what should be, done in the larger sense about the settlement.
Paul Downing, if I could just follow up on that, if that's okay. Personally, that really excites me, Paul T. What you just said. I've been thinking for over 2 years now here as part of this group about what's the one big idea or question that could change everything. And I think or it could change a lot of things. And I think you just articulated that question really well, and that it is high time to review it. How did the Settlement Act work? How well did that experiment go? It was well intentioned by both sides in 1980. It's now as crazy as it seems, because we all remember 1980 like it was yesterday, but we're nearing a half a century in. How did it go? How did it go? And are the tribes or the state better off with that unique experiment than the more traditional model that essentially the rest of the country lives by through federal Indian law? I think it would be fabulous to organize a head-on discussion around that question. And if the task force has actually, as you say, so I'm sure they have, laid out a recommendation on that question, and if the other commissioners feel so inclined, is there some way we could help and advance that? It's just such a simple move that's not simple, but a singular move that seemingly could have so many benefits for the tribes without really any detriment to the state, and potentially benefit to the state through its benefit to the tribes. It seems like the one topic that really is the elephant in the room, as they say, as opposed to the other thing they say is what, as opposed to continuing to rearrange the old saying, rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic.
I think this
Thank you.
topic,
Sarah, yeah.
I think
Go ahead,
this
Sarah.
topic is very, very interesting, and it's worth discussing. I have a lot of questions being a new member, and I've been trying to read and find out some of the background, and I've read different reports, but the part that I'm missing is what is the advantage to the tribes being under federal Indian law, and what are the disadvantages? Because I think I've seen in some cases, yes, this would be a good thing, but not this part of it. So, what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Or, why go this way, and what are the or why not go this way? And then I think we need to look at the 1980 settlement and see what was actually said at the time, what the state of Maine agreed to, and what the tribes agreed to, and if there's anything in the record for the settlement, try to understand which things were considered things that might be revised in the future, and which things might have been hard and fast things. For example, I'm pretty sure that the money that was put up by the federal government was considered hard and fast, and that's not something we're going to go back and debate. But I just don't know enough about the history, the benefits, and those kinds of things to have a discussion and come to any conclusion that I could justify. So I guess the first thing I think we need to do is do some fact finding, and I'm not really sure who should do that, but I do think it would benefit both the tribes and the state to have a better understanding of the situation today and what was thought in 1980 and the pros and cons of going different directions.
Okay, and before Bert, I just want to make a comment and then go to Bert, but I just think it's important to note that when the commission has been following, through the task force process and I know Sarah's not, hasn't, it's just joining the commission, but I mean, the commission has closely followed the task force process and the legislative process last year. And these questions, were really thoroughly examined, by the task force and then, in the legislative process last year. So I guess what I'm saying is, as a new member coming into the commission, obviously Sarah, has the challenge of catching up on these things. But I mean, my sense of it is that those who've been on the commission now for going on 2 years, those are probably not threshold questions that are new to the other members of the commission. And as far as Sarah, your question about what is even on the table, I mean, you're right. There's absolutely no suggestion to revisit the land claim piece of the settlement. It's the jurisdictional provisions.
Right.
Those are the issues. The land claims are done. The land hasn't all been acquired pursuant to the terms of the settlement, but nobody is revisiting that. The jurisdictional piece of the settlement was brought in to a land claim at the insistence of the state. It didn't have to be about jurisdiction, but the state wanted jurisdiction to be part of the settlement. And in order to accomplish the settlement, the tribes agreed to a jurisdictional structure that was radically different than what exists elsewhere in Indian country and radically different than what existed in Maine at the moment before the bill was signed.
Right.
Because the courts in Maine and the federal courts had determined by that time in the late 70s that federal Indian law fully applied in the state of Maine, that the reservations were Indian country in the same sense as anywhere else in the country. And I would say this, that when Attorney General Cohen went to the legislature in 1980, he made no bones about the state's position that the intention was to recover much of the jurisdiction, probably most of the jurisdiction, that the courts had in the last couple of years before that said that the state didn't have over the reservations. The Bottomley case and the Dana case, and before that, the Morton case, had made it clear that the regimen of control over the tribes that the state had been exercising was contrary to federal Indian law. And so when there really wasn't any secret about it. I mean, the Attorney General Cohen and others made it clear that this settlement would reacquire for the state much of the jurisdiction that they had thought they had, and the courts had told them they didn't have. And to me, that's always been a fundamental aspect of this, is that what was a land claim was converted into a jurisdictional agreement, and that jurisdictional agreement restored a state regimen
of control
that basically the courts had said was built on quicksand.
I'd like to respond for a minute. Thank you for that explanation. I've taken some notes and I'm going to do some more reading. And I would say, let's, forget my questioning for now and move on, because obviously I've still got quite a lot to learn, and I don't mean to sidetrack the commission. So just please carry forward, and I'll do some more homework.
And yeah, thanks, Sarah. And I didn't mean to, like, I know you're just coming into this, and I didn't mean that as a criticism of you.
No, I didn't take it as a criticism at all. I want to learn. Thank you.
So I've said what I said, and I think Bert wanted to.
Bert was the next one.
Yeah, Sarah, I was thinking that one of the things that you can probably do is, in our we have reports that were done, extensive reports that I don't know if you've taken time to look at them yet, and several of us, I'm sure, have the hard copy, but until you get a hard copy, they are available, on the website in the resources area. And I think I can't remember the title of the one I'm thinking of. Maybe Paul can help out, but there's actually a few of them that would be really good to help get you caught up on a lot of this. That's basically what I wanted to say. I don't know if you've already looked at what we have.
I have looked at the MITSC site, and I will continue to look at it. Some things I need to reread.
And I just want to say, Sarah, I'd be glad to work with you on,
Thanks.
any help I can give you there. Look, the final report of the Tribal State Work Group from 2008, if you haven't already read that, would definitely be a good one to.
Right. I have read it, but I need to read it again.
So pulling in the cats again, looking at a lot of the stuff that we sent out, and I sent an email out to everybody asking for input. What do you expect of me? What is the role as we move forward? And I think that I've got the consensus, or not the consensus, but I got the sense that most people are kind of in a limbo state until we get through that next level discussion. And where do we fit into that next level discussion? So one of the things I had talked to Paul briefly about was creating a position paper of where MITSC sits currently and asking the legislative body, do we fit into this next level discussion? What does the governor's office see of us? And what do our tribal leaders expect or desire of us? And I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it's hard to know the destiny. It's hard to know how to navigate point A to point B if you don't know what point B is. So I think we need to try to get some clarity from somebody, whether from the tribal leadership or the legislative body, of where and how can MITSC benefit the process. I look at what you guys have done, and under Jamie's tutelage and or guidance and leadership, and where we are today, um, the talent pool here is incredible. And I just think that if we don't figure out a way to harness that energy, then in 2 years we'll be talking the same discussion unless we have some actionable items that we can come up with, or that they can come up with. Does that make sense, Paul T? What I'm saying?
It makes sense to me, but I think,
Does it make sense to the commissioners?
Yes.
And that's the gist of what I got from everybody.
Paul, can I just offer?
Absolutely, Richard. Sorry.
No, I think that, so we know regarding the upcoming session and from the last session that the individual tribes will be working to put forward specific legislative proposals, perhaps collectively, perhaps individually, but positions have been developed through the task force process. Positions were developed with different pieces of legislation and with advocacy directly from tribal leadership and the tribal attorneys. The state may or may not come forward with a state position. So all I'm saying is there will be proposals on the table at in the legislature that will be coming forward from the players, regardless of what MITSC does, or regardless of any information we collect. So that is going to occur. So my perspective in terms of as we with the statutory body that's charged to review the implementation and the of the act and how it has evolved, can we identify, can we come to grips, I guess, with a response to a couple of basic questions? How well does it work? And is it serving, does it currently serve the tribes in the state? Because we can easily get drawn back in to the subsection of a particular paragraph in a particular bill that will take endless debate and discussion. But the players are already at the table going forward with that. They're introducing proposals, and there'll be counter proposals. But can we make a determination? I mean, my personal sense is, based on the last study over the last couple of years, is that I think you can show where early on, after 1980 in the early years, I think you can, on a historic basis, you can see and demonstrate and point to progress and benefit to the tribal communities and to the state. I think you can also then see, as the federal evolution changed and went beyond where Maine is or was, that you can make the argument that the Settlement Act has stalled out progress.
Yep.
And so all I'm saying is, if we can at least make some broad observations, hopefully not subjective. I mean, they can be based in research and analysis,
Okay.
that go to the fundamental issue. If there is a fundamental issue, we ought to do that. And before we get sucked into page 85, subparagraph C in somebody's bill. That's all I'm saying.
Got you.
I think Kevin beat you by a split second, John. Kevin?
Go ahead, John, now. After you, John, please.
No, go ahead. You beat me by a half a second, so you win.
Well, mine's super simple. I just want to put a big plug in for what Richard just said. A huge, bold ditto. I really would love to see us stay above the weeds and look at that singular big picture question. That could make a difference. That could be transformational.
I like that, Kevin. And Sarah's got her thumb up. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I agree with that, Kevin and Richard. And when Richard was talking about some of the gains that the tribes have made following 1980, the question is that a result of the Settlement Act, or is that a result of federal recognition? Right. Now, see, we were just federally recognized in the mid-70s, 76, 77, and then went right into the land claims. So we had 3 years of freedom since 1820. And so, I mean, the big picture, you ask if it was successful or not. Well, I guess that depends. If you're an attorney that likes to litigate, this has been very successful. I often refer to the land claims as the 1980 Tribal Attorneys Employment Act. There has been many, many lawsuits, and it's all over jurisdiction,
Right.
mostly civil jurisdiction. And so that's one thing I wanted to say. The other kind of thing I think that's really important, and it seems like a lot of the members on the Judiciary Committee and other folks in the legislature are really now understanding that the tribes now aren't what we were 40 years ago.
Yes.
So 40 years ago, when the state came in and said, you have to, um, all of this body of state law has to apply if we're going to support the land claims case. And the tribes were under duress. There was a time frame where we had to agree to pursue it before the election in 1980, because everybody knew that Ronald Reagan was going to get elected, and they didn't know if he would support the bill or not. Whereas Jimmy Carter had indicated in public at a town meeting in Bangor that if the land claims bill was presented to him, he would not veto it. So when that happened, there was a big rush to get it through. And now we're suffering from that haste. Uh, and so the tribes now, 40 years later, are very capable of having and being responsible in all of these areas of civil jurisdiction. We have developed, as a result of federal recognition, we've developed many administrative capabilities. We've developed tribal judicial systems, tribal courts, natural resource departments, police and public safety departments, a full health department. And that's all a result of federal recognition. Once we were federally recognized, we started working with the government to get all these services and programs put into place at the tribes. So I think it's important to just understand that the tribes are capable now. We may not have been in 1980. In 1980, we were fighting for survival.
Right.
Our tribal members were living in tar paper shacks on the reservations. And a lot of folks had never heard the word sovereignty before, let alone understand the importance of that word. I still don't even like that word. I prefer to use self-determination.
Yep.
Rather than sovereignty. Sovereignty is an English concept. I couldn't even find a word that meant anything close to that in our tribal language. So it confers having control over others. We just want to be able to have a say in our future. The tribes want to be able to self-determine our future.
Right.
And with all of the restrictions in the Maine Implementing Act, it's only made the lawyers rich. Thank you.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead,
John.
Bert. Bert's been chomping at the bit.
Really one, John. That was good. And I think as far as the language goes, the reason we don't find a word in our language for the word sovereignty is because we've been given direction by Creator, and that just in the things that we do and what we represent. So anyway, so if my understanding is correct, I'm going to say something. A lot of the reports that we already have in place um, basically give the information, because these reports are very extensive, and in a lot of cases very detailed, as to how the Settlement Act and the Maine Implementing Act has affected and effected, the tribes, as well as um, the relationship between the two. The so basically, what I'm seeing, okay, like I said, my understanding as far as what we're being asked right now, I think that when needed, I think we do need to stay very focused on on what's going on in the talks, as far as, these legislations that are, being worked on, and like Paul T has mentioned, or not Paul, but Richard had mentioned, that is that the players are at the table. They're the one our tribal leaders and people at the state levels are at the table, making the discussions as far, so what is our job? Our job still remains until the changes are made. Our job is still to do our job, in regard to anything else that comes forth that may upset the relations between the tribes and the state. Because as far as all the changes that are needing to be done, our tribal leaders and the state are already at the table, but we still have a job to do here. Until those change, if there's any changes made at that other level, then we adjust at that point. But for now, we still have things on that'll be on our agenda that we still have to take care of with the under our statutes now. So I don't know if I just confused everybody. I think I started to confuse myself. So I'm gonna stop talking.
So I'm gonna regain control of the cat herd again. We're coming close to the end of this meeting, and this is why Paul and I we actually do talk quite a bit, and why we've talked extensively about either having more meetings, whether they're shorter, whether the work groups want to kind of jump on these things. But here it is, we're on 6B, just talking about the legislative updates, and we've got still C, and then we've got 2 items under 7. And one of the things I did send out was the email about, something that'll probably have to go into executive. So I hope I can keep everybody here long enough for us to finish that part. I'll caveat off what Richard, Kevin, Bert, and John have just said, and I think this would be a great thing as Sarah learns the historical accounting of what MITSC has done, and kind of get that as she's learning that past history that you guys know so well, that we've all been kind of part of, whether it's council or current roles, et cetera, or commissioners. Figure that paper out. And something that we could present to the legislative is, that broad stroke. This is where you guys were. This is where it, was supposed to go to. This is the successes seen during the very initial periods, when the honeymoon was still going on. And now this is where we're at 41 years later, and have that historical accounting within there of why this hasn't worked. This has never cost Maine per se. The monies that they talk about came from the federal government, so it didn't cost the state of Maine. Every concession seems to be more tribal than it does from the state. So maybe if we put that, encapsulate that into a clear deliverable and say, here, this is our take. This is what we see as an independent body. Is that kind of echo what you're saying, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm simply saying that a clear indication, if there are, um, if we can identify our evaluation of the current status, because as the legislature and the tribal leaderships go forward with proposals and legislative propositions and negotiations between all the governments, I think you're going to have members of all the communities, the tribal communities and the state government in terms of the broader members of the legislature will continually go back and say, so what is this all about? So what is it we're being asked to try to address? So why is this proposition on the table? And I think MITSC can try to at least identify the pillars, the main issues, the primary principles that give the negotiators and the advocates something as a touchstone
Gotcha.
to keep in front of them in terms of, at least in our collective view, what the objective could be.
Okay, I'm getting a bunch of messages on the chat box that people are leaving at 1 for various meetings. We're going to have to do a follow-up if possible, very quickly in order to get through the executive item that I emailed to you guys, or shoot me an email concurring with what I asked previously. And again, I don't want to put that business out here on the public, but it's a personnel issue. Just shoot me an email or we'll set up another meeting real quick. Paul T.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at, and I think.
Can you make it real quick, Bert?
Yes, just real quick, because Paul, I don't think I didn't see that email that you said you sent out. So if you can resend it to me.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Paul, looking at the screen,
We've
I'm not
lost
in-
quorum,
I don't
or we
think
will
have
be.
quorum. I think we've lost quorum.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So, how do you want to go about trying to schedule a follow-up to this?
I can send out an email and ask for a consensus whether A, we move forward with my original suggestion, or B, set up another meeting in a very short period of time, like what is today, Wednesday, a week from today on the 10th. It has to be decided soon, my personal opinion. And even if it's just a short 30-minute meeting, that's basically mostly executive. Do you concur? I see
And
north and south.
And hopefully at that meeting, we can flesh out this conversation that we've just had in terms
Yes,
of
sir.
the next steps.
Yep. And we can make it brief, you know. Richard could give us a template or a skeleton, say, here you go, guys. So I think we got the consensus, and we've lost quorum. So I think that I have to officially call this meeting adjourned until we can come up with a consensus of, let's say, the 10th, March 10th.
So
Thank you, everyone that did
do
attend.
we still need to go through the motion to adjourn?
I think you guys do.
I make that motion.
Kevin seconds. So all in favor? We're out. Talk
Thanks,
soon. Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
Absolutely.